In a quiet town where families were judged by their names and not their hearts, there lived a man called Keith Walters. To the outside world, the Walters family was the very picture of success. Elegant home, polished manners, wealth that spoke louder than kindness. But behind the painted smiles lay an empire ruled by pride. The matriarch, Winnie Walters, believed no woman was ever good enough for her son. In her eyes, Keith was not just her child. He was her greatest investment. She wanted him to marry into influence, not love. And his sisters, Charlotte and Lydia, grew up feeding off that belief, that outsiders didn't belong, and love should be weighed in titles, not trust. Keith had always been the quiet one, intelligent, disciplined, and soft-hearted. But his calmness was often mistaken for weakness. He had spent years under his mother's invisible command, saying yes to things that never sat right with his spirit, all to keep the family peace. Then came Karina Jones. She wasn't born into wealth, but she carried something more powerful: grace. She worked in the same company as Keith, not in management but in communications. Her confidence wasn't loud. It was serene, and it drew people in without trying. The first time Keith saw her, it wasn't her beauty that caught him. It was her composure. The way she listened when others talked. The way she smiled without needing to prove anything. They became friends first. Gentle, genuine. And when friendship blossomed into love, it felt like something pure in a world that had long forgotten purity. But news travels fast in families that love control. When Keith finally brought Karina home to meet his family, the atmosphere was cold from the start. Winnie's handshake was soft but her eyes were steel. Charlotte's smile was polite, thin as glass. Lydia hugged Karina like a sister but whispered later, "You'll get used to us if you last." That evening, over dinner, the table was heavy with judgment. Winnie asked questions that weren't questions at all. "So, Karina, what do your parents do? Do they own their home?" Charlotte laughed lightly, adding, "Oh, don't mind Mother. She just wants to know if Keith will be upgrading or downgrading." Karina answered with grace, her voice steady. "Love doesn't measure itself by class, Mrs. Walters. What matters is how we build, not where we begin." That one line made Keith proud, and his mother furious. From that night the war began, quietly, strategically, without ever being called a war. The days that followed were laced with invisible tension. Keith noticed how his mother's tone changed whenever Karina's name came up. A subtle sigh here, a forced smile there. Charlotte and Lydia would whisper in corners, exchanging glances that Keith pretended not to see. Karina, though aware, kept her calm. She knew that silence often speaks louder than argument. But behind that calm, she could feel the quiet storm building. Then the messages began. First came a call from one of Keith's cousins. Casual on the surface. "Hey bro, I heard Karina was once engaged to a guy who worked in your company's finance department. People are talking." Keith brushed it off, confused. Karina had mentioned nothing of the sort. A week later, an anonymous email arrived. A screenshot of a conversation implying Karina was seeing someone else. The language was crude, the tone vindictive. Keith stared at it for hours, feeling torn between reason and insecurity. He loved Karina deeply, but the shadows of doubt began to creep in. When he confronted her gently one evening, Karina looked hurt but calm. "Keith, do you trust me?" she asked softly. "With everything I am," he replied. "Then don't let lies planted by those who fear our peace take root in you." He nodded, but the seed of doubt had already been planted. Winnie noticed the hesitation and pressed harder. She would accidentally bring up the rumors when Keith came home. "Oh darling, people talk. It's only natural to protect yourself before it's too late." Charlotte would add fuel. "I saw her chatting with some man in town last week. Looked cozy to me." Lydia, pretending concern, whispered, "Mom says you're blinded by love. Just be careful." Each lie was tiny, deliberate, like drops of poison in water. Karina felt the shift. Keith grew quieter, distracted. Their laughter became shorter, their silences longer. One night, she went home and cried in her mother's lap. "Mom, I've done nothing wrong, but I feel like I'm losing him." Her mother, gentle and wise, stroked her hair and said, "If love is true, it will pass through fire and not burn. Don't fight darkness with anger, Karina. The truth has its own hour." And so she waited, while Keith slowly sank deeper into his family's web. Soon Winnie called a family meeting, one Keith didn't know about. They invited a family friend, Pastor Aaron, pretending it was just a casual visit. But when he arrived, the agenda turned dark. "Pastor," Winnie began in her measured tone, "we are worried about our son. He's fallen for a woman who hides her past. We've heard she has another relationship and a bad reputation." The pastor frowned. "Have you verified this?" Charlotte quickly interjected. "We don't need proof. Everyone knows it. We just can't sit back and watch him destroy his future." The lies were now woven tightly. 2 days later, Keith received a call from Pastor Aaron, asking to meet. When they did, the pastor gently said, "Son, your mother seems troubled. I told her love must be built on truth. Is there something you haven't told her about this woman?" Keith felt cornered, confused, ashamed, angry. "No, Pastor, Karina is pure-hearted. I know her. But lately, I don't know what to believe anymore." That night, he sat in his car outside Karina's apartment for over an hour, torn between his heart and his family. He didn't knock. He just drove away. 2 weeks passed in silence. Karina didn't call, and Keith didn't visit. The distance between them grew heavy, but she refused to chase him. Her heart whispered, if love must be begged, it's no longer love. At home, the Walters family felt triumphant. Winnie was certain her plan had worked. "I told you," she said over tea. "Men forget women like that quickly. She'll move on to the next one." Charlotte smirked. "Probably already has." Even Lydia, pretending regret, added, "Poor girl. She just wasn't our type." But lies have a strange way of walking in circles. One Saturday morning, Keith went to the company for some paperwork. He found 2 of his colleagues chatting near the break area. When they saw him, they fell silent. One of them, a friend named Victor, looked uneasy. "Keith, about Karina," Victor started. "I don't know what's going on, but someone's been spreading ugly stories. Her work email got hacked a few weeks ago. She's been quietly dealing with IT to fix it." Keith froze. "What do you mean hacked?" Victor continued. "The fake messages, screenshots, they came from an account using her old name before she changed her ID. She's been getting threats too, but she didn't want to drag you into it." Cold realization hit him. Every doubt, every whisper, they'd all come from the same place. He drove straight to Karina's apartment, heart pounding. She opened the door slowly, eyes tired but calm. "Keith," she said softly, "you finally came." He couldn't speak at first. Shame and love fought for space in his throat. "Karina," he managed, "tell me the truth. About the rumors." She looked straight into his eyes. "There's nothing to tell. I was hacked, Keith. Someone used my old details to make me look like a liar. I kept quiet because I didn't want to accuse anyone without proof." Her voice cracked just a little, but she held her dignity. "Keith, I didn't want to lose us. But I also can't spend my life defending myself against your family's hatred. You have to decide whose truth you believe, theirs or the one standing right in front of you." Tears filled his eyes. He reached for her hand, whispering, "I'm so sorry. I let them get into my head. I should have trusted you." For the first time in weeks, she smiled faintly. "Then start trusting again, but this time trust your own heart." That night, Keith confronted his family. He found Winnie in the living room, Charlotte scrolling through her phone, Lydia pretending to read. "I know everything," he said quietly. "The fake emails, the stories, all of it." Winnie didn't flinch. "Oh, come now, Keith. You really believe that girl over your own mother?" Keith stepped closer, his tone firm. "No, Mum. I believe the truth. I spoke to IT. I traced the email source. It was created using Lydia's recovery number. Lydia dropped her book, face pale. Charlotte snapped. "You're accusing your own sister?" Keith turned to her. "No. I'm accusing whoever taught her that lies are love." Winnie rose, trembling with anger. "How dare you speak to me like that for a stranger?" Keith's voice cracked, raw but resolute. "She's not a stranger. She's the woman who showed me what love is, something I've never really seen in this house." The room went silent. Even Patrick, who had been quietly listening from the hallway, stepped forward. "Enough," he said softly. "I knew something was wrong but didn't stop it. Son, I'm sorry." Winnie's pride shattered into silence. For the first time she had no words. Keith walked out that night, drove straight to Karina's place, and never looked back. They rented a small apartment, humble, warm, and peaceful. Within a year, they built a consultancy firm together. Their teamwork was effortless. Their love stronger than ever. Karina's dignity had turned into their foundation. Meanwhile, back at the Walters' home, whispers of scandal spread through their circle. Friends who once admired Winnie's family began avoiding her. Charlotte lost her job after an internal audit revealed she'd been misusing funds. Lydia moved away. It wasn't revenge. It was consequence. Years later, when Keith and Karina celebrated their 5th anniversary, they invited Pastor Aaron. As he toasted them, he said gently, "Sometimes God lets lies bloom, so when truth comes, it shines brighter than ever." Karina smiled, tears in her eyes. Keith took her hand, whispering, "You were right. What's meant for you always finds you, no matter who tries to block it." And for the first time in a long time, peace felt like home. Life will test your patience through people who envy your light. Sometimes, even family will become strangers to your peace. But don't fight with noise. Let truth be your defender. The same hands that plant lies will one day point to their own guilt. So when the world seems against you, remember this. It's not yet over until it's over. What's meant for you will always find you, in its own time and in its own perfect way.